Within the past 50 years, many historic events would occur, affecting Canada in medical, political, international, as well as many other manners. However, the impacts of Canada's interactive history among its own people is very rich. Unlike many other countries, the voice of our own citizens are valued to the fullest extent. Us, the people, have the potential to alter the face of our nation. Because of this, many events have left permanent stamps on the social side of our nation, both good and bad. These stamps should be valued, as they help develop the modern society we are today.
Into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond. Our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves, as well as others.
Many great leaders have come and gone in the years, from Gandhi, a leader with visions of peace and acceptance, to Hitler, the charismatic commander of the Third Reich, even Albert Einstein, the leader of the academic field. While the impacts these people have had on society have been substantial, none truly compare in compassion to President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the face of a nation, the inspiration of many. Minor controversy arose within Protestant Canada at the time, questioning Kennedy's Catholic background, but this would soon blow over as time passed. Many Canadians, as well as other members of the democratic world, viewed Kennedy as a significant role model in both youth and leadership. During Kennedy's first trip to Canada as president, an extraordinary crowd of over 50,000 Canadian citizens came to meet Kennedy. During Kennedy's presidency, very few problems would arise between the two neighbor nations.
Secret Service follow-up car, motions with his hand. What he is doing is calling away the president's
Sadly, this happy-go-lucky period in the United States interactive history would come to a tragic end. On November 22, 1963, Kennedy would be assassinated whilst on a political trip to Dallas at 12:30 p.m. Shot once in the upper back with a killing blow to the head, the president would be rushed to the emergency room to die just half an hour later. As the shot took place during the Cold War, mass confusion would arise within the democratic nations, as it was believed to have been at first exclusively for political reasons, to give communist parties the upper hand. While the majority of radio and television stations would be shut down for many hours after, recollections of visits to Canada by Kennedy would still be told in honor of the man that had once been.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men.
While Kennedy spent years of his life dedicated to assisting his people, Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to his own people in a much different way. Often contrasting the ideas of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. dedicated his life to abolishing racism between all races for all races. Born in 1929, King would grow up in a world where discrimination was prevalent. Black men only made approximately 60% of what white men made, even having to drink from separate water fountains for hygienic purposes. While the diminishing of racism was something nearly unheard of at the time, King spent many of his early years as a civil rights activist, and began to lead freedom marches at the age of just 25. As recognition of King developed, so would the strength of his message, and during the March on Washington March in 1963, he would deliver his "I Have a Dream" speech that is still stapled many decades later. However, this reign of freedom for all disadvantaged races would soon come to a halt, as 4 years after winning the Nobel Peace Prize, Martin Luther King Jr. would be assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, on a meeting with the American Federation of States to discuss black wages. King's death would not be in vain though, as his legacy would carry on for decades around the world, changing the way black people, as well as all other disadvantaged races, were treated throughout society. In 1977, he would win the Presidential Medal of Freedom, while proceeding to win the Congressional Gold Medal in 2004. In addition, in 2008, King would have his message stapled annually to the third Monday of every January, in celebration of his birth.
Basement PC. What you're really buying is a mystery box. Will there be a monitor? Probably not. Lots of software? Ha! A free year on the internet? 24/7 tech support? Dream on. With a Gateway Essential PC, you know exactly what you're getting. Monitor, great software, award-winning tech support, and free internet access, all for $28 a month. No mystery there. Call 1-800-GATEWAY for a Gateway Essential PC with an Intel Celeron processor.
While many people consider the internet as a relatively new invention, blooming predominantly in the 90s, this is not quite so. The first establishment of communication between two computers was made back in the late 1950s, when a computer from the University of California successfully sent a dialog box to another computer at the Stanford Research Institute. This successful message would eventually spawn massive innovations in the early 70s through the early 90s, as the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, or DARPA, would unify many network signals, such as the Advanced Research Project Agency Network, or ARPANET, in order to create an international network of dial-up connections. Finally, in 1995, mass distribution of internal networks and dial-up connections were spread throughout the world, vastly contributing to the pop culture industries and simply the way people communicate individually. The distribution of broadband connections has turned many from extroverts to introverts, spending many hours in solitude, feeling a sense of a social life as they communicate to their friends via instant messengers, forums, and games, meaning that in a way, humans are no longer social animals when exposed to the internet. However, valuable information and products can be received from the internet as well, such as important dates and political news. People can even do their banking without even leaving the house, allowing for convenient financial transfers and organization. The spread of the internet has been distributed to both adults and children, with the amazing versatility that activities come along with when found on the internet.
It appears that there is more and more fire and smoke enveloping the very top of the building, and as fire crews are descending on this area, it does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God. That looks like a second plane.
On September 11, 2001, an event like no other would occur. One that would capture the attention of nearly everyone worldwide, changing many lives forever. On this day, two hijacked planes would collide directly into the World Trade Center as a result of a terrorist attack. While many believe that that's as simple as the reality is, 54% of American citizens believe that the September 11th attacks were not caused exclusively by the Al-Qaeda terrorist organization, with over 15% of total citizens believing that they were caused by the US government themselves. On this day, nearly 3,000 civilians would die as a result of the crash, over 200 of which simply being passengers on the plane. This attack would not only maim others, but cause a great dip in the economies of nearly every nation worldwide, Canada included, with America being one of the largest importers and exporters internationally. Throughout the world, Muslim people would soon be blamed for nearly every future terrorist attack, as well as have many negative stereotypes hurled upon them. Alongside Islamic people, Sikh would also face many difficulties, such as potential encounters while traveling internationally, and constant judgment by ignorant members of society today. Considering there are over 1 million Muslim Canadians residing in Canada today, this affects a large portion of the Canadian population.
Thank you. My fellow citizens, I stand here today humbled by the task before us.
American politics have always been near and dear to the Canadian nation, as Canada is affected significantly by American economy, receiving many exports from Canada. While that is not surprising, over the course of the past 30 years, Canada has preferred the Democratic Party over the Republicans. This is to be expected, as Canada has always been a very diverse group of individuals, preferring things such as open immigration and multiculturalism. which Democratic parties tend to favor towards as well. Because of this view on American politics, the progression of Barack Obama's role as president proved outstanding to Canadians, as can be seen in the polls, displaying over 60% of Canadians prefer Obama over Romney, with only 9% agreeing with Romney's concepts and introduction as potential president. Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper also tends to have an individually strong bond with Obama, attending many meetings with him, such as one on Parliament Hill in February 2009. These first steps in the development of an African-American president inspire many, bringing society all around the world closer, as we see the true potential that every race has. In addition, Canadians have learned to acknowledge the many differences between Canada and America, while still sharing the common similarities in order to avoid living in the shadow of such a colossus of a nation.